Welcome to It Starts Within, a podcast from Platinum Performance, where we'll dive into the health challenges faced by veterinarians and horse owners alike. Join us for inspiring stories about the latest advancements in equine care, treatments, and comebacks. You'll hear interviews with elite competitors, innovative researchers, and the veterinarians that devote their lives to horses and the humans that love them. At Platinum Performance, we know the power of nutrition starts within. Hello, all, and welcome to the Platinum Performance Podcast. I'm Jessie Bengoa, and on the show today, we are diving into a world that admittedly is a little foreign to me, but I can't think of anyone I'd rather learn from than the two people joining me here today, and that is Asta and Will Covert. Welcome to the podcast, my friends.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Looking forward to it.
Well, the pleasure is all mine, and let me tell you, Asta and Will are amazing, but they are also too humble to brag on themselves. So I'm going to do it for them. So you can get a little introduction to who they are and why that you're going to be learning all things Icelandic horse from two of the titans in the industry. And Asta and Will are the husband and wife team behind Flying Sea Ranch, which we're lucky enough to have located about 15 minutes away from Platinum Performance in California's Santa Ynez Valley. And now it's funny. So I know Asta and Will fairly well, but for the longest time, I had no idea of their level of involvement and influence in the Icelandic horse world. So again, they're pretty humble folks, but until I slowly started to pick up on these little signs that my friends were actually kind of a big deal in this world. So Asta, for her part, was actually born in Iceland, and you might pick up on a little bit of that beautiful Icelandic accent as we head on. But Asta, say your middle name for the audience and I, would you please, so I don't completely do a disservice and butcher it.
I can say my full name. Yeah. Asta Duck Bjarnadóttir Covert is my full name. It's a mouthful.
Amazing. That's exactly what I was going to say. So thank you for that. So born in Iceland, and her family was involved with Icelandic horses from the word go. So Asta, your parents, your brother included, give us a little insight into how you grew up and what part the Icelandic horse plays in the culture of Iceland. Because I'm guessing that this is a culture, a country, a people that not many of our listeners are actually really familiar with. So give us a little insight.
Yeah. So I think the horses are like the second biggest industry in Iceland, next below fish, like fishing and fish.
Export.
Yeah, for export. Fishing is number one. And so I grew up riding Icelandic horses. We only have Icelandic horses in Iceland, so you don't really have any options for anything but Icelandic horses. And once they leave the island, that's it. They cannot go back. It's a one-way ticket, no import allowed. So I grew up riding Icelandic horses in what we call a club that people own their own stables within this community where we share oval track. Now they share indoor arenas. They have seminars, shows, educational things, and it's a lot of social gatherings around that. So my dad owns a stable within this club when I grew up, and they have trails as well. So I grew up literally coming home from school, riding my bike to that riding club that we were lucky enough to live that close to, that I could ride my bike. So I spent pretty much every minute I was not in school there, riding, socializing with my peers. My whole family is into horses. So this was just our lifestyle. And then we rode from like December till probably June. And then in the summer, the horses are turned out on big fields. And then you go to like a summer house where we had our horses, and then you ride on the weekends. And then the falls, you pretty much don't ride a whole lot back then. Now they use the falls to break in young horses. And so it's getting to be more a year-round thing there. But when I grew up back then, long time ago. Um, the horses were pretty much December till June, and then after school I did just figure out my homework and everything after I came home from the barn.
It's ironic. That's kind of the way their daughter Bella is growing up now. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So Asta, take us one step forward. How did you end up in the US and how did you meet Will?
Yeah, so Will spent a lot of time in Iceland in the late 90s and learned the language actually through the horses. And so that's kind of how we didn't really meet in Iceland. We kind of, I guess, knew of each other. And then Will's mom needed somebody to help with sales horses. Well, he was mostly in Iceland when he was in Iceland in the winter from like January till the spring when things were really happening. And so I had this off semester from a junior college, and I was invited to come and be a tourist and help with the horses with his mom. And I had never been to the US, so I was like, why not? California, Hollywood, like, hey. Not really, but yeah. It was very exotic and felt very exciting. And so I remember this was 1999, January 1999, I came and I flew through JFK, didn't understand how you transfer your luggage and all those things. I've never taken a flight where you had to connect. I only taken a direct flight a couple times, like not really travel savvy. And then I didn't understand that I was on a standby. There was no cell phones, like, but luckily I got on the flight and he picked me up at the airport. And so we became really good friends and developed really good friendship that, yeah, here we are.
Led to where you are today. Excellent.
Yeah.
Will, the cute blonde girl arrives from Iceland. Nice work, my friend. So I want to turn it to Will for a minute because now, ladies and gentlemen, anyone who knows Will Covert knows that I had to pull the friend card pretty hard to get him on this podcast. So talking about himself is amongst his least favorite things to do, but he has a really interesting story and he quietly gives a lot of his time and attention to the Icelandic horse world. And Will, like Austa, is very active in the United States Icelandic Horse Congress, and he travels the world as a representative and a judge and all the things. But Will, talk to me about your beginnings and how, I mean, you're an American, how you became woven into the Icelandic culture and the Icelandic horses, even before you met the pretty blonde girl Austa, showed up off the airplane and clouds parted and angels sung. So yeah, well done on that again. So talk to me about your story and how you ended up in this really unique world and fluent in the language.
Well, it's a long story, but I grew up in horses and come from a horse family in all directions. Cousins with Morgan horses, and grandmother, and even back to her grandfather in Arabian horses. And then I grew up with quarter horses, did all the quarter horse things. My mom rode Western Pleasure, and I team roped for a while, worked on dude ranches and did different things. But my mom and sister switched to Icelandic horses around the time I was in high school, and they fell completely for them. And I thought they were, cute and nice and like good temperament, but I didn't really in the beginning show much interest in them. But I was offered a chance to go and work in Iceland with horses, and it's kind of similar to Austa's. It sounded interesting, different, and a good opportunity, and so I went for it. And kind of the rest is literally history. It's been years now of full involvement and really taking over our lifestyle.
It's pretty amazing how things fall into place the way they inevitably should be. So I want to dive right into learning a little bit about this breed because anyone who has seen Icelandic horses knows that, I mean, they look like the real life My Little Ponies. They've got teddy bear ears. They're like big, poofy, long manes and tails, and they're sized kind of somewhere between what we would think of as a Shetland pony and a small horse. And so Austa and Will, you're both champion riders, both in this country and internationally. But break it down for those of us who are relatively unfamiliar with this breed. Like, what makes them so unique in terms of their build, their temperament, trainability, gait, all the things?
I think it goes back. These are still the horses, as Elsa mentioned, that you can't import horses into Iceland. And so these are still the horses that the Vikings took around Northern Europe in their open longboats. So they were smaller. And from what I've learned, a lot of horses around that time were gated. And by taking them in the open ships, they were then necessarily good character, really confident horses, and healthy, sturdy horses. So they were able to take them on that long trip to Iceland and selectively have bred them the last 1200 or so years into what the breed is today. Up until World War II, really, the story goes is that they were used, same horse was used to do the farm work, take the family to church on Sunday, and then also they would get together and have competitions between the different areas of Iceland and the farmers to show off their horses and show who had the fastest, who had the flashiest and the best gaits, and so that's what they were primarily were just a versatile. They did everything on the farm for the family at the same time. And it wasn't until much later when tractors and Jeeps arrived after World War II that they started then to focus on different uses and became more about traveling around the country. And then these competitions have developed into what they are today to show the horses off with their gaits.
Amazing. Okay, so we've got the Icelandic Swiss Army knife is what the Icelandic horse is.
Yeah.
And so I also want to understand in terms of their maintenance. Talk to me about this because it's also fairly unique, is it not? Like, what does their diet and their caloric intake look like? I know I've gotten to hear a little bit about this from Austa in the past, but they're a little bit different than quarter horses and warm bloods and thoroughbreds, excuse me. They're kind of their own animal.
They are. I think growing up in such a northern climate, the grasses, the seasons are short, so the grass is not a real strong. And I'm not the best on nutrition, so I won't.
I'm here. Well, it's okay. We're good.
Do too many details on that, but it is a short growing season, and so it's a not a real strong grass that they can grow there. And then of course they only can hay for about 3 months, and then they store that hay and feed it. So they're not used to a high calorie diet. Some horses, in fact, don't do well at all on something when they import it. If they're fed alfalfa, then they look like
Too hot for
look
that.
like they had too many cups of coffee or something. They'll just get a
Wow.
little jittery from it.
A little hot, a little juicy
Yeah.
from
Yes,
too
and
many
you
calories.
take it out and they're back to
Yeah.
themselves. It's
Wow.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember talking with Alston once. And I was like, geez, these are sounding like a donkey diet. They
Yeah.
get by, they get
Yeah.
by on relatively little. And it's really interesting because, nature knows best. And
Mhm.
it's a product of evolution, right? They've been in a closed environment in
Yeah.
harsh weather conditions,
Yeah.
adapted.
And still in California, after being imported, some of them are packing up the pounds for winter. I mean, it's just in their DNA to get ready for winter after it's a survival mode in a sense. Even though they live in California, they're clipped and they're like all, kept. Yeah, they couldn't have it any nicer, really.
I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, oh, weird. My body
Yeah.
likes to get ready for winter too. Perfect.
Well, yeah.
No, I think that's so interesting though. And it really is a testament to, treating each breed to their genetic differences because they
Yeah.
are there, no two people are wired the same and horses tend to be their own animals too. And so talk to me about because your horses all, nobody is obese at your farm. I've seen them. They have a perfect body condition. So talk to me about what you're feeding them in terms of the forage. I know you go pretty minimal on your grains and your concentrates, and then you also found platinum. So talk to me about what their diets look like in an ideal world being in California versus, in a harsher island environment like they're used to.
Yeah, we actually get our hay from Alberta, Canada,
Yeah, Alberta, Canada.
to try to get it as close to the hay that is grown in Iceland for them. So we import from Canada our hay,
Which is Timothy.
Timothy hay, yes. So grass hay. Then depending on their exercise, like my stallion that I took to Switzerland last summer, he is on platinum year round, twice a day, and with just a little bit of grain, just as a, eat the powder. Um, and then hey, but same, he's such an easy keeper, so then I have to make sure how much I ride him. You just really have to manage how much exercises they're getting. Um, so you don't overfeed.
Yeah.
It's so easy to overfeed these horses.
So energy in, energy out.
Yes,
Good balance.
exactly. And just, yeah, keep an eye on the weight all the time because it happens fast.
Right. I mean, we talk a lot about metabolic,
Yeah.
issues in horses.
It's a big thing in our breed. Yeah.
I can imagine, especially since they're in an environment where they have not adapted over time to live
Yeah.
here in the United States. So I can imagine that can come easily. So, I mean,
Yeah, and especially if you have green grass year round, you really have to manage how much time they spend on the grass. We have green grass, which we use for after exercise. It's more mental reward than it is for food. So
well, snack time is an effective mental reward for all of us. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about tack because they are a unique horse. They are gaited. And I mean, it looks like you're going real fast on an Icelandic horse because of their short gait. But they're pretty fun to watch under saddle because of that. But talk to me about the tack. What type of saddle are you riding? How is it unique? And even to the boots. I've watched Asta saddle, her stallion, and I was thinking, hey, wait a minute, those are not your typical bell boots. So talk to me about the bridle and what is unique about the tack for Icelandic horses.
We import our tack all from Europe. They're kind of specially made. They are short horses, so the saddle has to fit that short amount of back that we have and not be placed too far back. So I feel like they've kind of gone towards a little bit of dressage influences in the saddles.
It's evolved over the years as different influences. There in an international world of Icelandic horses, there's two big influences: the traditional Icelandic influence, which was a little more of a casual riding style, and then the German, that is a very popular horse in Germany. So then traditional German riding has crossed over into it in its way. And so the tack is kind of a blend of those two worlds. In Iceland, the original bridle they used is a shanked curb bit. It's a single broken snaffle bit with shanks and a curb chain. And that's all they rode with until the German influence came in, and then they started using snaffle bits.
And drop nosebands. And
Yeah.
no variant.
Yeah, and
Oh,
wearing
thanks.
nosebands. The saddles have gone through different evolutions. They tried even there was a group that was riding with saddlebred saddles with a saddle seat and real flat, and it's now kind of crossed over into a modified type of dressage seat. I would say is the closest thing. That's a little bit deeper with some more leg support, but
And then like the boots they are like bell boots, but they strap on and they're rubber because in Iceland you can be riding in any type of weather, so they don't want leather or things that soak up the weight. We have very strict rules with how much weight you can have on the front feet of the horses when showing. So they're for overreaching. They're protective boots, really, for our horses, but they do come in different weights, which are regulated.
Yeah, we're allowed to have a maximum of 250 grams per boot, and they're typically they're white what we call sport competition are kind of our horse showing style, and then the white is just to attract the eye. But
Yeah.
and there's a division of the breeding evaluations where stallions and mares are shown and evaluated for their conformation and ridden abilities, their gaits, and then there they use an even lighter boot, which is only black, so it doesn't enhance the
Yeah.
visual movements. But
Just pure
Wow.
protection.
Yeah. I love it. You know, it always reminds me of anyone that you encounter outside of the horse world. It's like, oh, the horse world's the horse world. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, have you ever been to a dressage show and then a cutting and then an Icelandic show?
Yeah.
Like, no, it's a
All
completely
so
different.
different.
Yeah. Yeah. It's lots of subcultures here.
Yeah.
Well, no, thank you for detailing that because I just find it fascinating with not only every discipline, but every breed, how things vary, you know, and I think it's kind of unexpected what you encounter in Icelandic horses versus, you know, some of, I'm a cowgirl, what those quarter horses, you know, we're used to. It's a little different.
Yeah.
So you've talked a little bit about how it is more of a closed environment in Iceland, where, you know, once you get your ticket out as an Icelandic horse, you're never coming home again. And I would imagine that's to protect the integrity of the breed and so
Yeah.
on. So, and I know you both have been pretty involved in the United States Icelandic Horse Congress registry. So, talk to me a little bit about that and what are the rules with the breed? How is it kept pure? Is it kept pure? With the goals and the rules? I would imagine that's why the registry exists. So talk to me a little
Yes.
bit about that.
So I'm actually the registrar. So we have this database called WorldFinger that every single purebred Icelandic horse goes into in the world. So the horses that are born in the US, they have to be DNA verified through UC Davis for both sire and dam to make sure that that parentage is accurate. They have to file stallion reports to make sure that the mating happened, to ensure that the breed is purebred. In Iceland, they don't have to do this because it's only Icelandic horses, so there's no crossbreeding.
Confirmed.
They
Yeah.
do require now breeding horses that go into breeding evaluations to have DNA on file, so they do parent verification, because that had in the past not been fully accurately kept track of, as they were just pasture bred. And in Iceland, pasture breeding is still a big part of the breed. They do AI and things like that, but they do have to be pasture bred as well.
So both are allowed. So they can be live cover and AI. So we're not talking like a thoroughbred situation. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting.
And then the foals are born in the field, and you wake up and you're like, oh, we have a foal.
Ta-da!
Yeah, exactly. They're not like generally very, very rarely born in stalls in Iceland, at least. So out in nature.
Yep. These little horses are scrappy. They're tough. Folks.
Yes.
I love it.
They're tough. Healthy and tough in general.
I think another of many things that just attract me to them is just how hardy they are, how genetically strong they are, how their fertility is still very high. I think we had one collected at Alamo Pintado Equine Clinic a week ago, and I think were slightly surprised at how strong and how fertile the horse was and how well they collected. So it's just something that nature has kept them living in that harsh environment. They've maintained kind of strength in a lot of different ways.
I'm telling you, those Icelanders, Asta, they're genetically
Yeah,
hardy.
we're Vikings. Don't mess with
Genetically hardy people. You got that going for you.
Yeah.
So, Will, I want to turn to you again. I would love to learn from you in terms of the show structure of the Icelandic horse world, because you and Asta, and even, you know, I had mentioned your daughter Bella earlier, who is, correct me if I'm wrong, barely 11, ladies and gentlemen, but she's a nationally ranked youth rider. Weird. I wonder where she gets that from. And you all are really involved with the showing aspect of this breed here in the US, but also internationally. So school us a little bit on what it looks like, the different levels, the major shows, because if I'm not mistaken, did sport competition, is this a relatively new factor in Icelandic horses? Has this always been around? Is it, only
It has been
decades old?
the sport portion of it really did start in Europe. In Iceland, they have a little bit different style of competition that they call Geiðingakeppni. And a Geiðingur in Icelandic means like
The ideal.
the ideal horse. And so they have a little bit faster version of showing the spirit of the horse and the willingness. And so the Europeans that were quickly catching on in the 50s and 60s. So it does go back a ways, but late 60s they started in Europe with these competitions called sport. And so it's a little bit more precision riding, gait transitions. We show them on an oval track currently. These days it's on a 250-meter oval track, and you're showing whether the two different divisions. You have the 5-gated horse, which then is showing walk, trot, canter, tolt. They're running walk or single foot gait, and then flying pace. And then the 4-gated horses they show without the pace, but you'll show typically all of the gaits in one round in the 4-gated test, and half a round of walk.
Wow, that's interesting. So, do we have a pretty robust show culture in the US with Icelandic horses now?
We do. It's growing. There, we have a national ranking, as you mentioned, like Bella being ranked, and so there's the different levels: youth, novice, intermediate, and then the open division, which is the higher level, professionals and amateurs included. And it's in kind of all corners of the country. There's areas of Icelandic courses where these competitions are held, and where we have access to these oval tracks.
Amazing. All right. And then how about internationally? Because, Alsta's kind of a big deal on the show circuit. So you talk to me about international and how it intersects with the US, how we send riders on our team and so on. How does that work?
And so the first level of the international area are what we call world ranking competitions. And so we keep a list. FIFE is the International Icelandic Horse Association, and that includes now 22 countries, including Australia and New Zealand, or within that even. And
Will is actually on the board of that international association, and as the sport leader in charge of sport competitions worldwide.
Amazing. Power couple through and through.
and so in those competitions we have and it's 5 judges, and you're judging with numerical scores from 0 to 10. And so with that world ranking list, then the countries can kind of gauge each other's levels and competitiveness from looking at that list. And then every other year the FIFE holds the world championships in a different European country. Last summer, as you know, also competed in Switzerland with her stallion, and then next summer it will be in the Bavarian area of Germany. And so there, each member country of FIFE is able to send 7 adult riders and 5 youth riders, which are 16 to 21.
Yeah.
And they compete in that's the 2 divisions. There's at the World Championships, we don't have any other levels except for just young rider and adult, but no, it's all the highest level.
Amazing.
Right.
And they do pace races as well at the World Championships, which is really...
That has to be fun to see.
Yeah.
It's really exciting to watch.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've officially stopped comparing my summer plans to Asta. I'm not interested in what you're doing in summer, Asta, because it's like, where are you going, Jesse? Oh, I don't know, Arizona. Where are you going? I'm flying horses to Switzerland to represent Team USA. No big deal.
Wow.
It's a lot, Asta. I'm going to go throw rocks at my summer plans now.
Yeah.
So talk to me, Asta, because you do a fair amount of training. So talk to me about the nuances of training Icelandic horses, particularly. I mean, these are gaited horses, as we mentioned several times, but how early do you start them? What's the process look like? And how long do their competitive careers usually go?
Yeah, they generally start like stallions and mares, like the fall before they turn 4. So they're allowed to be shown in breeding assessments for 4 years old, not in sport competition, just breeding assessment where they're ridden on a straight track. So generally mares and stallions are started at like a 3.5. Very basic, riding, just kind of knowing to go from point A to B and being around the human and getting used to a rider. And then sometimes geldings are started a little bit later, like 5 or 6. But they do wait to start them till then. And then like our horses, like my older gelding that I traveled the world with back in before becoming a mom, he went through all that training in Iceland, and then he came here in 2008. And then I took him 3 times to Europe, and he was still being ridden and showing into his mid-20s. He is 29 right now, at home, fat and happy, enjoying retirement. But in general, they can be ridden into their mid-20s if ridden consistently, I think, and maintaining their training, where they stay healthy,
Maintaining their weight.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, and that they don't get obese, or that they stay fit.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the most important thing, is to be fit.
Yeah, no,
for them.
I love that, because one thing about your world is I do feel like you focus a lot on longevity. Aside from those sturdy Icelandic genes, I feel like you do focus, you start showing them a little later. And as much as some of us as as horse people don't want to admit, sometimes we do start our horses a tad on the young side for longevity's sake. So I love that you all tend to pay attention to that in your world. And these horses do seem to go on and stay very sound for a long time. So
yeah, and I think they have rules too, how many starters they can do in sport competition, depending on their age as well.
Yeah, how many rides per day they could have at a competition, just to maintain horse health and wellness. And
because some of the tests, you can ride the same horse in multiple tests sometimes, and so they watch that it's horse friendly in their book, I guess, the rules.
Sure. Okay. Well, now help me understand, because, pick a sport. If you look at the Western world, you're going to hear a lot about the dock bars and the metallic cats of the world. In Icelandic horses, help me understand some of the really pivotal bloodlines and some of these really famous horses that have kind of helped shape your world. And buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. These are going to be some names that you might not recognize.
Those are going to be mouthful of names, yeah. I think, like my stallion's grandfather, Orri frá Þúfu, he was sired a lot of offspring that have succeeded, like generations after generations. I think he was he born 86, I think.
I think so. He was at his peak in like 1994.
Yeah.
Back to there as
him and me both. Okay.
Yeah.
And so after the next 20 years after that, he had a big influence and traced back, actually both of Elsa's best competition horses over the years traced directly back to him. And so most recently he's had a big influence in the
and then
breed.
We actually have my trainer Ule Lamble, she had a mare who is actually influencing the breed big time right now. Her name was Álfadís frá Selfossi. She was shown 4 years old at this big national competition in Iceland 2000, and she I don't know how many sons she has that have been honor prize for their offspring. So so she's making a big mark on the breeding right now. And so I actually have a gelding out of her daughter. And so that's really exciting. And her son Álfaklettur frá Syðri Gegnishólum, it's a very simple name. He has a son who was shown at the World Championships who actually came to the US and to California, and then he just left for Iowa, where his owner, Virginia Lordson, is keeping him for breeding and
Wow.
showing. Yeah, so we've had a little trying to bring these great bloodlines into the US for more breeding here.
Well, the more Alsta repeats these names, I'm highly impressed that you learned this language. So good for you. That's pretty impressive.
It did take a little time, but it was a matter of survival for speaking of horse farmers in Iceland that didn't speak any English, and so we kind of had to pick the
my
right.
God.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, as higher level riders, are you typically importing? Are you typically sourcing your horses in Iceland, or is there
I do,
okay.
But of course I'm very biased. Coming from Iceland, I just love the way they grow up. They grow up so untouched and wild till they're trained. They're kind of, when they're weaned, they're handled, so they do know they're human, but then they're kind of out because in Iceland there's no diseases, no vaccinations, worming.
No natural predators.
Yes, no, yeah. So worming is the only thing you have to worry about, like out in the fields.
Wow. I mean, that's
Yeah.
something that I think a lot of us wouldn't even comprehend.
I
It
know.
is
So,
such a closed
yeah.
environment. So
Yeah.
that's
So
amazing.
when they're imported, they're treated like a foal. They need to have the whole series of everything because they've never had a shot in their life.
Yeah, or been exposed to
Yeah.
anything. So it's
Wow. That's so interesting. Well, and you all have created kind of this little sanctuary and in our very special valley, we're biased, but this is a beautiful place and it's horse country. And you've created a really unique environment at Flying Sea Ranch, which is Will and Austa's beautiful property here. So, Will, I'll point this at you. So talk to me about Flying Sea Ranch and kind of the uniqueness of this facility and the shows that you host here, because you all do play host pretty often to some really important shows in your world.
Yeah, that's right. We'll have a world ranking event coming up in 3 weeks, where we'll have riders coming from Washington, Oregon, parts of California, and maybe some other areas as well. But while it's a beautiful area that we live in, it's pricey, so we don't have much extra land, and so we've tried to use all of our acres for the horses. And it's you can see when you visit our place, definitely the horses take priority. So we have the covered round pen, and then all of the paddocks for the horses along with the grass areas. But then the 250-meter oval track takes up some space.
Like a quarter of the property.
So it's try to landscape it and make it a nice feature to our property. But with that, we're able to offer everything we need for the horses and for Icelandic horse people to be able to come and enjoy it.
I mean, it's a huge focal point. It's like an art piece at your property, though. You walk on there and the track is meticulous to say the least. So it's absolutely beautiful. And I love that you all it's been very thoughtfully designed, so everything fits just as it should. And it seems like a pretty tranquil environment for the horse to be in, a really neat spot to come for a show. So I love that you all do that. And it's right here in the San Ynez Valley. It's pretty neat. So Austa, through our whole conversation, we were talking about the international shows, but I want to go back to something because I don't think we emphasized it enough. You have competed for Team USA and continue to, and that's a really big deal. And you've both had the pleasure of representing America kind of on the world stage with Icelandic horses. So Austa, I'll start with you. Tell me about that experience. What does it feel like? This is your home country now, your adoptive home country, but how does it feel representing as part of Team USA at the World Championships? I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, it's been so fun. Like I say, I competed a lot as a child and since I was 10, I think, and didn't think much of it then. But then when you go to the World Championships, I mean, there are, I don't know, 6,000 to 10,000 people in the stands, and it's like very close, not on the hills like in Iceland. They're on the hill, like not as close. So it is pretty intense, but it's so fun. And it's become like when you go every 2 years, you also make friends from the other countries, and you're seeing your friends every 2 years, but for 10 days straight. So it's just it's a lot of fun.
That's
And
awesome.
everybody's there for the Icelandic horse. It's incredible how popular they are in Europe, especially.
Well, when you spend any time around them, you can definitely see how easy it is to kind of fall in love with this breed, because they're very endearing, creatures. They're super cute,
Yeah,
but they're
they are.
they have a fun personality, and you can definitely tell how easy it is to become roped into these horses.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what's next for you both, because you've got this amazing program at Flying Sea Ranch. You're competing for your country. You yourself are riders. Will is involved with leadership for the Icelandic horse world. Your competitors, your judges, your breeders. I don't know that you really can fit anything else in, but what's next for the two of you? What are your goals for your program? Is a goal to make it to the World Championships next year? What do you want? What's next?
Yeah, that's the goal. At least try out and see what happens. And then if I feel like we're fit enough to make the long trip and travel, it's a big commitment. Like last summer, my horse was the horse that traveled the farthest. He flew from California to Germany, and then yeah, and was hauled into Switzerland. Well, maybe he didn't have as hard of a trip as some, because flying, I feel like it's pretty easy on them compared to being trucked from Finland or Sweden way up there. And it was hot, so I felt like we had kind of like that was not a big deal because it was summer, and yeah, okay, it was more humid than home, but we're more acclimated to the heat than some of the other ones. But it is a big commitment. But always good to have goals for me to train towards. So we'll train towards it.
I love it. Good. Will, how about you? Do you see yourself continuing on kind of in a leadership role for the Icelandic horses? I hope so.
Yeah.
Good. He's nodding his head. Good. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely. I'd like to give back to it. It's given us so much in our lives, and so I think that's the way I look at it, to give something back to the sport and the breed, and then to continue to grow it here and support Asta and her competing, and then our daughter Bella, as you said, would like to see her and she's enjoying it, so I'll support her and try and help her go as far as she would like to go with it.
I love it.
We'll
And
see.
I hope everybody listening checks out. There's going to be a article about Will and Asta and their program out in Platinum Magazine. And we were able to take the cutest pictures, which I have seen, and Asta and Will have not yet.
Not yet.
But Bella and her mare are about the cutest thing you've ever seen. And Bella has this huge head of blonde hair, and it's hilarious. It's like you all planned this. It matches her mare's the hair perfectly. So when you look at the photos, you can't tell where Bella stops and the mare begins. So it's pretty cute. So incoming, you all, they're pretty adorable. So Bella has a lot of room to grow and expand as a writer and follow the family tradition. I love that. I think that's great. So Asta, I'm going to turn to you to kind of start to close out our conversation. What do you hope that other horse people like me, to whom the Icelandic horse is a little foreign, what do you hope that they come away from this conversation with, knowing about the breed and kind of about how special these horses are?
I think I I think when people see them, they think of them. Yes, they're very cute. I think it would be nice if they got recognized for how versatile they are. They can be very spirited. They're not a children's pony necessarily. Some of them are, but not all. And some of them are quite spirited, willing to please and work for the rider. So they're not necessarily therefore a beginner horse. But I think their versatility is like much more than I think people realize.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, seeing you all around them, I mean, it's pretty clear that they are willing, but you have a really amazing way of handling them too. When I most recently visited Will and Austa's, there was a spicy stallion there, that pretty blonde Austa. Let me tell you what, she handles them. I was like, Austa, you are like the man from Snowy River. This is real cool. This is real cool, girl.
Yeah.
So no,
need
they
more
are.
manners.
Yeah, yes, she's gonna make sure they have manners, definitely. He was working on that day in progress.
Yeah.
Well, good. Yeah, they just seem like a very special breed, and I look forward to getting to know them a little bit better through the two of you. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a little sneak peek into the world of Icelandic horses, and I hope you enjoyed getting to know them as much as I did with our dear friends Asta and Will Covert. So if you want to learn more about the breed, the American Icelandic Horse Congress is a great resource, as is Asta and Will's website, tolt.net, TOLT.net. But I want to thank both of you for joining me, Asta and Will, and particularly Will, because I know that this is the most painful for him.
Definitely outside my comfort zone, but thank you very much for the conversation. Enjoyed it.
Oh, well, trust me, I really appreciate it. And, to all of you joining us, thank you for learning alongside me. And I hope you get to experience these horses. They really are amazing. So join me on the next episode of the Platinum Performance Podcast. And until then, I'm Jessie Bengoa. Take care, all.